H-Town, what it do? I'm Nick Stevenson, the president of Houston Sports. He is Ruben Calvillo, Mr. 713, and this is lucky episode number 13 of the Twin Toros podcast. Thank you guys so much for joining us once again. Ruben, how you feeling today?
Feeling fantastic, man. Looking to, bounce back from a pretty disappointing loss, and we're at home against Indy, looking to sweep, looking to, continue to have a stronghold on first place in the AFC South, man. I'm feeling very nicey, like John Gruden says.
Yeah, baby, that's good to hear, man. That's what I wanted to ask you. Are you ready to turn the page? Well, we're going to break down this upcoming matchup versus the Colts. First thing I want to do is I want to remind you guys where you can find our content. You guys make sure you are subscribed to Mr. 713 at 713 Houston Sports on YouTube. I will leave all the links to his socials and wherever you can find his content in the description. And you can find me at Houston Sports State of the Union podcast on YouTube. I will also leave the link to my socials in the description. I want to let you guys know really quick before we get started. Also, coming up on Halloween, Thursday Night Football, it is the matchup between Houston versus New York. Your boys, the Twin Toros, are going to be doing a watch party with the Athletically Declined Sports podcast. Now listen, we need you guys to tune in. It'll be available on 713 Houston Sports. It'll be available on Houston Sports State of the Union podcast, or you can watch on ESPN Houston's page. However you want to consume it, we need you guys to show up and show out for us on this one, man. It's a big deal for us that we're finally going to be in the ESPN studios doing this watch party. I know many of you probably watch Ruben's watch parties on the daily or every week. He's going to be over there at ESPN studios with us. It's going to be a good time, man. I'm looking forward to it, Ruben.
Man, I'm excited. It's kind of our debut on Big ESPN 97.5. So let's have a good time. And, hopefully everyone who's hopped on the stream with me during these seasons, during these games can hop on the ESPN.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be real fun. All right, man. But before we get there, we got to get to that week. We got to get to Halloween. It's been a spooky week for the Houston Texans. I ran into you at the Rockets game, man. It's been a spooky week for Houston in general, man. We had a disappointing loss there as well. But listen, we've been critical about this Texans team, and deservedly so. There's a lot of things that we can be critical about because we had high hopes for this team. However, the prevailing theme that I'm getting when I listen to all of the sports talk in this city, man, is so negative. Like, the one thing I do want to say is, yes, there are things that we need to criticize this team about, but can we stop acting like they're 2-5 instead of 5-2? Come on, man.
It's just, it's been going on since this Houston Texans team has become a franchise, right? Once we win the big game, once we hoist a Lombardi trophy, and that's going to happen sooner than rather than later, ladies and gentlemen, everyone's going to calm down. And, we've been this very, critical of this team since all the way back to Bill O'Brien, Gary Kubiak, all the way back, all the way to 2002. Yeah. So I feel like the criticism, the skepticism will be there. Once you win that trophy, though, kind of, the monkey gets taken off your back and the city gives you the benefit of the doubt.
I feel you.
This team has showed us in the past is it can't get past a divisional round. Once you do that, everyone's gonna just gonna shut up. You got it. Until then, people they're entitled to their opinion. Like I've said before, I'm more of a half glass full kind of guy. We are 5-2. Are there some mistakes? Yes, you can say we should be lucky to be 5-2. Yeah. I could agree, and then I could counter that and say, we just haven't played our best football yet. And it's like what Joe Mixon said on one of the podcasts he was on. Once we get Nico back, it's going to get scary. Once this Houston Texans team gets healthy, they are going to be scary. And I cannot wait, man. I can't wait.
Yeah, for sure. Shout out to Joe Mixon, too, man. He took the first shot at the Rockets game, man. Nothing but net from the free throw line.
Net, dude. I don't know about the jeans he was wearing, though.
Yeah. We've already commented on the fashion of the Houston Texans. But, hey, bro, when you're making money like that, you wear the drip you want to wear, right? Yeah. But, look, man, and I want to shout out to Gallant and Joe George, who so graciously helped us get our podcast on the ESPN Houston platform. They do a show every noon to 3 during the week, from noon to 3 every weekday. I was listening to their show, man, and I'm going to paraphrase, but it was all doom and gloom, man. They're like, don't tell us that it can get better because, in the press conference, I think D'Amico was asking for the benefit of the doubt a little bit, but they're telling us, hey, don't tell us that it can get better because it can't. And once again, I'm paraphrasing. But my thing is like the Texans O-line, it definitely can get better. It sure as hell can't get worse.
Oh,
I mean,
it could get worse.
I guess it could. I mean, CJ's only the third most pressured quarterback in all of the NFL, so I guess it could get a little bit worse. But it really starts with Bobby Slowick, and in his press conference, he said just as much. When he was asked about the problems his offensive line is having, he said, it starts with me. So all eyes are going to be on him this Sunday. You and I were talking a little bit before we started recording that this pass rush from the Colts has not been good. Now, they are getting DeForest Buckner back, but at the same time, nobody on this team has more than a sack and a half. What are you looking for from this offense, and what specifically are you going to hold Bobby Slowick to the fire on in this game versus the Colts?
You know, it's going to have to be the offensive line. Bobby, we've heard Cody Stutes say play, game plan, call plays like you have a top 5 bottom, offensive line. I don't know why I said top 5, but a bottom 5 offensive line in the NFL. And I think he is 100% correct, right? I don't think that the Houston Texans offense should try to have these long development plays when we know this offensive line just isn't what we expected into the offseason. This is one of my keys to victory. Can this offensive line create opportunities for CJ Stroud to operate? Can they create some running lanes for Joe Mixon? Joe Mixon had showed us, that he makes this offensive line better. He can turn nothing into something. But this is a divisional game, and this game is important for both teams. Indy wants to get 2 games above 500. They want to stay in that wild card race. Not only do we want to, stay firm on top place of the AFC South, but, we're score watching. What is Kansas City doing? What are these other top teams doing as we start to fight towards for seeding as the season comes to an end? But this offensive line, man, it's been the story all year. They've been holding back this Houston Texan offense. When are they going to get it together, right? You said you don't think they can get any worse. I disagree. Do I think they can get better? I'm not sure. This is what we have, ladies and gentlemen. And if we get a underwhelming performance from this offensive line on Sunday, it is what it is, man. This is what we're going to have to deal with for the rest of the season. And, our narratives are going to be like, whatever CJ could do out there, man, we're going to leave it in CJ's hands. That's what it might turn into if we had a bad performance from this O-line. Sad but true.
Yeah, and I'm not saying talent-wise, no, it's not getting any better. Execution-wise, it's got to get better.
You hope so,
we cannot
right?
maintain
go against the Lions and the Chiefs and the Ravens,
if it stays
offensive line.
If it stays the way it is right now, then this season is going to be a whole lot different than what all the Texans fans were anticipating and hoping for when the season began. So that's why I say it can't get worse. It has to get better. So that being said, I think the biggest thing for me is that the coaching, Bobby Slowick has said multiple times, like, hey, maybe I'm calling too complicated of an offense. Maybe I'm asking this line to do too much. So you're extremely right when you said, okay, well then adjust. If you know they're struggling with it, do some quick hitting plays. Try to get the ball out quickly. Get the ball in the hands of your playmakers. And I agree with that so much. And if they can successfully do that, and then this offense starts putting up points and putting up numbers, and CJ is not getting sacked, I think that's going to continue to build confidence for the guys on the offensive line, and maybe they do start playing better. Because right now they're getting their ass kicked, bro, and that's got to be demoralizing. So you as the coach, you have to find a way, the GM gives you the ingredients, the coaches, you got to cook the meal, right? So Bobby Slowick's got to find a way to use the ingredients he's got to cook up a good meal. And I think this could be an opportunity for a get right game.
Absolutely.
But it's also a little bit of a trap game, man, because Indy's coming here. They want to score up that loss in week 1, and they smell blood in the water, man. You're talking about us looking at Kansas City. We better look at the Colts because they're right on our ass. And if they win this game, yes, technically, we might have the tiebreaker, I think, because of our division record.
Yes.
But still, they'll be right on our ass going all the way towards the end of the season. Like, this is an opportunity to keep them at arm's length, and then you can start score watching on the other teams in the AFC.
So dare I say this is a must-win game for the Houston Texans? I've
Ooh.
been saying it.
Yeah. It really does feel like it. I mean, obviously not literally, but yes, if this team is what we hope they are, what we think they are, what they aspire to be, then you got to win this game. You can't let this one go. At home, that would be a disaster. But man, talk about the pitchforks coming out. Oh my goodness.
No, I mean it's going to be out because if you lose this game, it's an immediate. This Houston Texans team is not for real.
Yeah.
That is going to be the conversation. The conversations were kind of being held after last week's loss to the Green Bay Packers. Those will only be amplified if you lose at home
Yeah.
against the Indianapolis Colts. And, you look at who they've just beat up. I think they've gone against the Tennessee Titans and they've gone against the Miami Dolphins. The Houston Texans are an entirely different team than those. I like that the Houston Texans haven't lost back-to-back games in a while, Nick.
Yeah.
The Houston Texans, this is a statement game from them, but I don't
For
think
sure.
it's a statement game from the defense or, the pass catchers. It's still on the offensive line. But boy, if you lose this game, dude, the narratives are going to be insane. If you win this game, it's going to be okay. You did what you're supposed to do. Now go
Yeah.
beat a viable opponent.
Let me ask you a question, Ruben. You said if they lose this game, then it's clear to all of us now that this team is not for real. My question is, though, whose fault is that going to be? Is it our fault for buying into it? Is it our fault for buying into the hype? Did we maybe get swept up in the media hype? Because once again, I'm going to say this. The Texans never really put these expectations on themselves. They didn't come out and say, hey, man, we're winning a Super Bowl this year. Now, I know CJ and Tank, they were on a podcast with Gilly the Kid, and they said ultimately that's their goal. Most teams are going to say that at the beginning of the season. Did this team really believe that they had Super Bowl aspirations? I don't know. I think their goal is to win as many football games as possible, get to the playoffs, and then it's up in the air from there. We were the ones who placed that Super Bowl expectation on them. Is that our fault?
We would be lying to ourselves if we said the Houston Texans themselves didn't put those type of expectations. Because you see the defensive rookie of the year, the offensive rookie of the year, finalist for coach of the year, a candidate for assistant coach of the year, and then Bobby Slowick. Then you have an offseason where you were the first team in NFL history to add a 1,000-yard rusher, a 1,000-yard receiver, and a player with double-digit sacks. You added two, Daniil Hunter and Danico Autry.
Yeah.
You have that type of offseason. You have what you had last season in terms of awards. How can you not say this team is going to go far?
So you're saying indirectly they put that expectation on themselves. Maybe they didn't come out and say, hey, we're going to the Super Bowl. But based on the moves they made.
Come out and tell everyone, in front of the national media, yeah, this is our year, right? Like we're not going to go ahead and do what the Dallas Cowboys, owner does almost every single year.
Right.
But, we would be lying to say this wasn't a conversation held within meetings. Like, I think we have a roster talent-wise that can go to the big game. We just need to execute. And, what's crazy is there's only 18 games, Nick. There's 18 weeks.
Right.
We have to be very critical of, what happens because we only have a short season.
Yeah, the NFL is it's the league of overreaction. I get it, man. Every week is so critical, and I understand. I just wish maybe it's like you said, we're glass half full type of dudes. I guess I just wish the city would hold a little bit more optimism. By all means, be critical and set an expectation and set a bar that you want them to reach. But I feel like a lot of people, like I said, it feels like we're 2-5 instead of 5-2. Like, let's calm down on that. Let's talk about the injury updates real quick, man. Kamari Lassiter has been back at practice in limited capacity.
Great.
We haven't got an update today. Hopefully if he's still limited, I would guess that probably means he's at minimum questionable for the game, right?
I mean, if I see a questionable, I would lean more towards this guy is going to play, right? He was there all week, and with the game being kind of big, in my opinion, I think you need your number 2 corner out there, Kamari Lassiter. Yeah. If he would have been out one of these days, if he would have only practiced 2, then maybe. But since it was all 3 of being limited, you're still doing things there at practice, and you were there today on Friday. Yeah. I think Kamari Lassiter might be out there.
I hope so. Once again, The quarterback matchup does not scare me.
IR5, absolutely not.
IR5 has 3 touchdowns. He's got 6 interceptions. He's thrown for 783 yards. And yes, he was injured for what, 3 games?
Yes.
I think it was, yeah, he was injured for 3 games. But still, even in the games he played, nothing about the way he played scared me at all. So I have no worries about that. CJ Stroud, he's getting close to 2,000 yards. He's got the 10 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. He probably could have more if his offensive line was worth a damn. But I'm just not worried about, even if Kamara doesn't play, that's not a huge concern to me. The linebacking core is a concern to me because I think you're getting Jonathan Taylor back this week if you're the Colts. So Henry 202, he was limited on Wednesday, but then he did not practice Thursday. I don't know what that means. And if you get an update on the injury report while we're doing the show, please jump in and let me know. Will Anderson Jr. was full participant on Thursday. Titus was limited on Thursday. Laramie was full participant. So they're still going to have a somewhat skeleton crew on defense. Are you going to allow that to be an excuse if for some reason they either lose this game or it's one of those 2 close games that we've had all year?
No, there shouldn't be no excuses. I think the Houston Texans should be able to handle business, and D'Amico has shown us that he can scheme and he could put it together a nice game plan without 4 starters. And now that, going against this Indy team, the only questions we have on the offense. So for me, it's no excuses.
No, I agree 100%. All eyes on who is the question I want to ask you. For me, I'm starting with Bobby Slowick. All eyes on you this week, bud. You said it's on you. You said the offensive line struggles. You have to figure that out. All right, man. Time to figure it out. We talked about it. The Colts, they only have 14 sacks on the season. Nobody has more than 1.5. You are getting Buckner back once again, but still, you should have an opportunity to do a better job of protection. And like my man Ruben said, if you don't think this O-line can hold up, then make it easier on them. Get some quick plays going. He's the number 1 guy I'm looking at, man, along obviously with the rest of the O-line. What about you?
No, I mean, that's the guy. We've been criticizing the offensive line, the offense as a whole, and, that's being all controlled by one guy, and that's Bobby Slowick. And I'm glad that he noticed the criticism. I'm glad that he took accountability. I mean, first of all, there's no one else to blame but Bobby. So
Yeah.
this is someone who got head coaching opportunities, right? Head coaching interviews in the off season. Let's see why they thought that you can lead a franchise, Bobby. Come out, put together a solid game plan, and make it easier for this offensive line. Silence the doubters, man.
Yeah.
Everyone's looking at you, Bobby.
For sure. And I hope that means that D'Amico said, hey, Bobby, you got to straighten this out, bro. They're starting to ask me questions. And that's why I have my number 3 guy as all eyes on is D'Amico Ryans for 2 reasons. Number 1, your in-game decision-making. He admitted that he should have thrown a flag on that possible backwards pass after the fact. And if there's one thing Houston Texans fans hate, it's their coach admitting that they should have done something after the fact. We got a whole lot of that with Bill O'Brien. We got a little bit of that with Garrett Kubiak. We don't want to hear that, man. Make the right call. Throw the flag. Figure it out. Get with your coaching staff. Get with your crew. Figure out how do we get this right in the future. And then hopefully also his decision-making when it comes to clock management, man. I asked the question last week, and I know you didn't agree with this, but I asked the question, should the head coach be calling the defensive plays? Is it taking his focus away from some of those really important details and crunch time? Thus far, like we said, they're 5-2. It hasn't come back to bite them in the ass yet. But I feel like it's a legitimate question. So that's why I'm going to be watching D'Amico Ryans. Also, the second way I have him under the microscope, or all my eyes are on him, is if things don't go well in this game, you have no more excuses to not hold somebody accountable. We know you're a nice guy. We know you're a friendly coach. We know you're a player's coach. But if things keep going wrong and you lose this game and you are now technically tied with the Colts in the division, are you going to start holding people accountable? That's the reason I have D'Amico Ryans on this list. This isn't D'Amico slandered. I'm not saying he's not a great coach. He has been a great coach. I know he's only in his 2nd year as a head coach. So see, these are some of the things he's still got to figure out. But I'm looking at him, man, and that's pretty much it. I feel like we can narrow down all of the problems that the Texans have had to Bobby Slowick, to the offensive line. And then whether it be directly or indirectly, that always falls back onto the head coach and D'Amico Ryans.
I think that we if they do fix it, we will see this offense come out and, kind of be exactly what we wanted to see, an up-tempo offense, quick passing games, get your tight ends involved. The Indianapolis Colts, they give a 80 plus rating to opposing tight ends. If we
Yeah,
see that from this offense, that means Bombi Slovic did change it around.
for
Right.
sure.
And that means, like you mentioned a couple of minutes ago, that D'Amico did talk to him, right? Imagine being in that film room, imagine being in that meeting. And, if I'm D'Amico, I'm saying, hey, my defense without four guys kept us in this game.
Yeah, for sure.
And when you look at the offensive side, and there's only one glaring outlier, and that is the O line. You see CJ Stroud running for his life. You see your O line confused. You see one tripping on his other guy. That's all on Bobby. He
Yeah.
comes out here, man, and changes up from what we're used to seeing. I think it'll be a great sign that he's not only willing to change, but that they're listening
Yeah.
to the outside noise. And some of our concerns, you hear D'Amico say, I know I know a lot of people have some issues with the offense. They're listening, man. So hopefully they get it fixed.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. This is a big game.
Big
I fall short of must win, but it's a big game. And I can understand why some Texans fans, I understand why you, Mr. 713, feel like it is a must win game. I think probably for the morale of the city and maybe even the morale of the team. Actually, I'm going to take that back, man. I think the team is saying all the right things in public. I think any Texans fan who wants the team to be panicking the way that they are, you don't understand. When D'Amico Ryans, it's his job to be calm. It's his job to stay collected. He's not going to panic. I mean, some of these people that were criticizing his press conference, I'm like, what do you want me to do? Come out and be like, man, this team sucks. I don't know what we're going to do. We might as well just quit. Like, yeah, he's going to be positive. That's just his personality, first of all. We've talked about how he's not that rah-rah guy. He's not getting in people's face. But the Texans are 5-2. And I'm not even going to put the juju out in the air that they lose this game. And I'm going to get score predictions in just a second. All I'm saying is the team, they are handling this exactly the way I believe they should. I'm glad they're not panicking. I'm glad they're not falling apart. I'm glad they're not pointing fingers. CJ Stroud got up on that podium and he had every single one of his offensive linemen's back. He didn't throw him under the bus. And that's what we should want to see from our team and especially from the leaders on the team.
No, absolutely right. One game should not cause your entire team to collapse, right? You have some veterans in
Right.
that locker room that have been there
Yeah.
and done that, right? Joe Mixon, believe it or not, Stephon Diggs have been there and done that. You just brought
Yeah.
in a linebacker in Devin White who has gone and won himself a Super Bowl. So,
That's
you got to
valuable.
take what happened last week on the chin, man, and you got to go moving forward. We need to get in here with some great vibes, great attitude. And I'm just saying, bro, like if we see this O-line blocking, creating lanes, like our worries are going to just lessen and lessen as the
sure.
weeks go by and by. And when Nico comes back, right, how different do defenses adjust to a fully healthy Houston Texan offense? Because we haven't seen a fully, healthy Houston Texan offense since week 2.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That's very, very true. Well, let's get down to it, man. It's that time of the show. Let's get a score prediction for what you think is going to happen on Sunday at NRG Stadium. Once again, if you guys are at the game, go holler at my boy Ruben in the orange lot at the tailgate. What's going to happen, Ruben? What's the score you got?
Let me go 24-17. This Houston Texans front four is going to be the reason why you win this game. I do believe Jonathan Taylor is going to be back there. Do you shut him down for 50 yards? I don't think so. Does he gas you for 100 plus? I don't think so either. It's going to come down to making Anthony Richardson beat you with his arm. And so far, he has shown you he can. If this defense takes advantage, right, have him be under pressure. The Miami Dolphins had him under pressure 60% of the time last week. So we need to have that, make him uncomfortable, right? He's basically a rookie quarterback back there, man. And you know what? Let's sweep Indianapolis Colts and let's continue being on this first place in the AFC South, man. And, our destiny being in our hands. You don't want to lose this game, guys. I'm calling it a must win.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Well, Ruben, there's a reason they put us together, bro. Twin Toros for a reason. I got us winning 21-17. Close enough, right? Let's lock it in.
Lock it in.
Now, the last time the Texans played this team, they scored 29 points. If they come out and throw up a 30 burger,
without Nico,
dare I say another 40 burger without Nico, all of a sudden the narrative is going to shift 100%.
Now, a lot of
because I think we've established
apologies.
Yeah, for sure. I think we've established that the Colts are not a great team, but they're not scrubs either. Like, they're probably going to be right on the Texans' tails for the rest of the season, if I had to imagine. So, once again, you're back at the crib. Hometown's rocking. You're going to sleep in your bed. You're going to get some home cooking that morning. Let's get this win, man. I want to see the Houston Texans put at ease our fan base for one more week. That way, by the time we get to our episode on Tuesday on ESPN Houston, 7:30 p.m., we're having a celebratory show, and we're talking about how many wins we think this team's going to be able to stack as they get to the latter half of their schedule and this season. Yeah, man, for sure. I'm still excited, man, and I'm looking forward to us doing our next show on ESPN Houston. I want to remind you guys, if you're watching right now from Ruben's channel, we do every Tuesday, 7:30, a recap or review show of the previous game. So we'll be doing that next week for this Colts game on ESPN Houston. If you're not subscribed there, please subscribe. I know Ruben, he saves all of the episodes to the playlist on his channel. So if you don't make it over there, you can find the video on his channel. You'll find the video on my channel as well. I have a Twin Toros playlist there as well. Remember to follow 713 Houston Sports and all of his social medias. I will leave those links in the description, and you can find me at Houston Sports State of the Union podcast on YouTube, and I will leave all of my socials. Don't forget, Thursday night football. It's Houston versus New York. We will be at the ESPN Houston studios for a live stream watch party. It's the Twin Toros. It's athletically declined. It's the first time we've hung with these dudes since we lost to them in the Rock the Mic competition. Maybe it'll get spicy. Maybe it'll get saucy. I don't know, man. But I'm looking very much forward to it, man. In all honesty, those dudes have been extremely gracious to us. ESPN has been extremely gracious to us. And we're so thankful for having them let us share their platform. Before we get out of here, Ruben, what you got to say to the peoples, my friend?
Hey, man, looking forward to this game. And you win this game, we're going to be feeling very nicey. We're going to be talking about this team potentially, going to places that we've never gone before. I'm excited, man. Thank y'all for being a part of this episode.
Absolutely, man. So we will see you guys on Tuesday on ESPN Houston. In the meantime, we want you to stay 10 toes down for the H. We love you. Good night.